Well, the state has gone to a deregulated market as far as tuition rates. At one point, the state would tell each school what their tuition rates would be. And then basically they turned the schools into what's more like a free market model, where we charge basically what we need to offset our costs and really what the market will bear. And so Amarillo College has been always very, very conservative where that came. We try to keep our costs down. You know, we don't spend a whole lot on extra. Almost all of our spending is academic related. We don't have sports teams to support. We don't build new stadiums. We don't build a lot of new buildings. If we do, it typically comes from grants and things like that. So we have always kept our costs down. But over time, our costs do increase. So we do have to give faculty and staff, they do have to get raises because their cost of living in their homes go up. So over time, they have to earn more money, or they would look to leave and go other places. So keeping qualified staff means you have to continually give raises. We have slipped a little bit in that we haven't given raises as fast as some other colleges have. So we've dropped down from, we've always tried to stay very much in the middle of the pack as far as pay raises, and we've actually slipped down a little bit. We were able to give a 3% raise last year, but several years before that they'd have a percent or a 0.5%, and so their pay has not actually kept up with what professors are making at other colleges. So that's something we know we have to focus on, because we've got to keep talented people. It's really the face of the college is our faculty, and that's the value that the college gives us to students, is because it's a very personnel-driven model in colleges. What we're producing isn't a product as much as it's an experience with a professor, where you're learning from them. And if the professor isn't here, we don't really have a product to offer the students. So we're very sensitive to salaries the most. 72% of our total budget does go to salaries. So out of our $60 million budget, $46 million of that is salaries and benefits to employees. So that means we spend very little on anything else except for salaries. And so our personnel budget is something we're really sensitive to. So that's the greatest amount of our increase comes. The state has cut, last year our cut was about $3 million in the last biennium. So the state has what they call a biennium, because our legislature meets every 2 years. So they produce a 2-year budget. So in the last budget we had about a $3 million decrease overall, so that's $1.5 million to each year. Right now the biennium cut for Amarillo College is going to be about $1.5 million, so that's $750,000 a year out of the next 2 years. So the state has not finalized that budget, so we're still hopeful that some of that money will be replaced, and some of it already has. But there are two different sides to the bill. So the Senate passes a bill and the House passes a bill, and they have to reconcile the two. So we won't know exactly where we're at until June, but the last number that was published looked like a $750,000 decrease in our budget from the state. So really what we have to do to keep maintaining a great college is we have to increase revenue somewhere, and so that's typically gets passed on to the consumer of our product, which is the student. But we have to set priorities, and so keeping the cost down is a priority. So what I don't think what you'll see is the cost of Amarillo College ever getting out of control, because we do keep our costs down first. We don't pass it on to students first. We always try to cut our costs before we ever pass any kind of increase, but we will every 3 to 4 years, just as part of doing business, we will increase slightly.